I'm wondering if there's anyone else on the call other than Lisa that's had difficulty getting into the visual.
Christina, can you hear me? It's Janine.
I can. Hey, Janine.
Hi, I just see coaching call Readiness, and then it's private meeting. Your request to enter has been sent to the host. Wait for a response. Is that wrong or right?
That should be, well, it's wrong on our end, so we're going to look into that. Someone else said, oh, there we go. I think we just fixed it.
Oh, yeah, good. Good.
The computer.
Hello, it's Dana here from AVI Health Center.
Hi, Dana. It's Christina.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. I can hear a little bit of an echo. I will ask if anyone can please mute their speakers in their computer. Elena, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I was just muting my computer. Is echo gone?
Yeah, it looks like, sounds like it.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, my coordination is still not quite good yet. I haven't had enough coffee yet. Just informally, from about 9:30 until 9:45, I will have to go to another room to take another call, so
Okay.
I will be absent for a bit.
Okay, thank you. All right, why don't we start? I think it's a small group, so I think we can start with a roll call. My name is Christina Clark, and good morning.
Jane Toy from St. Paul's Pharmacy.
Hey, Janine.
What'd she say?
Ilana Canigan, First Nations Health Authority.
Oh, you're in.
Dana Becker, AIDS Vancouver Island, Nanaimo.
Lisa Neufeld, Island Health, Victoria.
Hi, it's David Hall, Vancouver Coastal Health.
Hi, it's Michelle Selstad from Stop HIV in Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Andrea Kyle with Wade Cook from Primary Outreach Services, Vancouver Coastal Health.
We have Amelia Birch from Regensong and Youth Public Health on the chat.
Okay, good morning and welcome, everyone. Looks like we have a nice group today. This is another monthly coaching call for the HIV Continuum of Care Collaborative. My name is Christina Clark, and I am the Collaborative Project Director for the HIV Continuum of Care Collaborative, and that is led by the BC Centre for Excellence in HIV/AIDS and made possible by the hard work and passion of the teams, community groups, and health authorities from across BC that contribute to this effort. And this is, in fact, I can't believe it, the last call that is scheduled for the HIV Continuum of Care Collaborative. It marks the 15th month since the collaborative launched back in November of 2013, and because of that, I've decided today to focus more on what lay ahead, including Learning Session 4, some ideas for getting ready for Learning Session 4, and also the transition from the Continuum of Care Collaborative, which is a period of active improvement, to a less intense period that's going to be focused more on sustainability and on improvement priority renewal. So as always, I invite you to participate throughout the call. You can use the chat box, which appears on the bottom right of the screen, so you can type in at any time to post questions or add comments. Please raise your hand also if you have a question. I think our lines are unmuted right now. Is that right, Anna?
They're all muted, yeah.
Yeah, so we're all unmuted, so feel free to interrupt at any time with a question. So I mentioned we're now in the 15th month of our 15-month HIV Continuum of Care Collaborative, and what this means is not that we've come to an end in our quality improvement journey, but rather we've come to a transition point. So it's important to look at how far we've come, in my mind, and what I've been able to observe is over 20 different and varied teams that have made really strong forward progress in reaching for their own aims, and also in closing gaps along the HIV continuum of care. I've seen from reports, from the focus groups we've held, from the collaborative learning sessions, a lot of examples of this progress. And I'd like to share just a few today, and you'll hear more about these at Learning Session 4. So some of the examples I've heard have been a reduction in the number of loss to care, teams that have created better access to care by uncovering and resolving transportation challenges for clients. Similarly, a team that has successfully increased financial support for their clients. Teams that are moving public health and primary care closer together. Teams that are helping to normalize HIV testing and have increased the coverage of HIV tests for their populations. Many teams that have significantly increased their level of understanding with respect to client need and health services. And similarly, teams that have improved and organized their health information systems so that they can respond more proactively to their patients' needs. I've also seen better and more effective mechanisms for communicating with partners for safe, effective, and complete care. And of note, many, many more new and strengthened and productive partnerships. And we've seen this inside of organizations, outside with allied and community groups, and this contributes to more safe, complete, comprehensive, and effective care. And just as importantly, though it's not often considered as an outcome of interest, it's the progress that individuals have made in developing their skills and capacities for improvement and change. And similarly, the progress that sites have made in strengthening their improvement teams to move forward change and improvement agenda. So I've seen teams that have strengthened their ability to define their own priorities, their own aims, measure their progress, test and implement change. Teams have also strengthened their own professional networks inside and outside their organizations. And this is, in my mind, a really important step forward because in many ways it's foundational to continued improvement and important especially as we transition from this period that is the active improvement phase to one that's less intense and a little more self-directed. So I'm just going to share a slide that takes a bit of a deeper look at what this transition looks like. So right now we're in January of 2015, again the 15th month from when we first started. These 15 months have been focused on team development, defining aims that are aligned with the collaborative aims, developing measurement systems, testing changes to reach towards your aims, and implementing effective aims, learning and sharing. And of course there's been lots of progress, some which I went over earlier, and more that you'll hear about at Learning Session 4. And from Learning Session 4, if you follow the arrow to the right, we'll transition into a period that is more self-directed and less intense than the period you've experienced over the past 15 months. So you'll continue to be supported in the next phase in what we call the HIV Quality Improvement Network. And some of you will be familiar with this because this was a structure that had existed after the first collaborative came to its sort of transition point. And the purpose of it is to continue to keep the teams connected, to ensure teams have a medium to share resources, and continue to convene around HIV quality improvement. The network is focused more on sustainability and renewal, and the focus will be on preserving and institutionalizing a lot of the new ways of working and new processes that you've been developing over the past 15 months. And it'll also be focused on reflection and renewing your active improvement priorities. So as we head for this transition, what might you want to think about? Well, first is to create a plan for sustainability. How will you sustain your new ways of working and new processes? And there will be time at Learning Session 4, there'll be 60 minutes to think about how you're going to really institutionalize a lot of the changes, the way you guys work now. And some of the things you might think about is How often will you continue to meet as a team? What data will you continue to collect and review, and how often? And how will you maintain momentum? Some more things to think about are, what improvement priorities do you want to address going forward? So one thing to think about is reflecting on your aims. Do you feel as a team if you've reached your aims? If no, how might you refocus to reach them? If you do feel like you've reached a lot of your aims, what will your new priorities be? So things to think about are, how will you integrate patient feedback or patient participation in your team? Special populations, what are your gaps in your populations, and what special populations might you turn your attention to? Cultural competency. Specific elements of the chronic care model, like self-management support, is often one that comes last when you're doing a change initiative. And what partnerships with the community do you still need to establish? And what supports will be in place for you as you move through this transition? Well, there will be the resources under the StopHIVAIDS.ca website, and we're looking at doing a redevelopment of this to make it more accessible and easier to navigate so that teams can have their resources there and will be able to easily find a space to upload those and to access them. Of course, the listserv will continue, and this is a way to reach all 200 plus quality improvers across the province if you have any questions. We are looking at a quarterly call schedule to continue to convene us and to share ideas. Possibly an 8-month learning session where we'll come back together face-to-face. Possibly quarterly voluntary reporting. And of course, we'll have all of these things in more detail at Learning Session 4, hopefully with some dates, but at the very least with confirmation of these activities. Before I turn my attention to the schedule for Learning Session 4 and how to prepare for it, are there any questions about what I've just spoken about, the transition, the Quality Improvement Network? All right, I think what I'll do is I'll keep moving. We can come back to any of the content that I've just covered. So now I've got just a bit of an overview of what Learning Session 4 is going to look like. Starting off the day, an overview of where we've come from and the vision for going forward. So this is going to look a little familiar to you from past learning sessions with key messages from Dr. Julio Montana, our sponsor, and Dr. Rolando Barrios, our medical director. And I think what you'll see in these key messages a little more of this time around are sort of the changes that you've seen over the past 15 months. What have been the strengths and the changes, and what has been our cumulative impact? Next is, of course, to get everyone speaking early. We want to find out who's in the room, and we'll do our team introductions and our welcome. We'll then follow that with a leaders panel with BC Health System leaders who are going to talk about the concept of what it's going to take to reach our testing and treatment goals. So this is going to be some high-level ideas and inspiration and vision for what our next steps might be and where we might turn our attention to going forward. We'll then have a deeper discussion about some of the peer-selected changes. So yesterday you may have seen an email that came out from the collaborative with voting. And so every team was asked to submit in 50 words or less what was their most significant change from their participation in the collaborative and how do they plan to sustain it. What we're going to do this time is we're asking everyone to vote on the change that they really want to talk more about at Learning Session 4. And so each team that has been selected by popular vote is going to just give a really brief conversation to the whole crowd, and then they're going to lead conversations where we can talk really deeply about some of the tips and tricks for actually implementing unexpected consequences from implementing it, things that they've learned, stuff that you might not get from just a presentation. So do make sure you vote for the change that you want to see featured at Learning Session 4. Next is more ideas about improving HIV care, but we're going to focus this time on different concepts. So focusing on addiction, youth to adult transition. How can you develop a business case? And leadership. What are the leadership traits that you might need for HIV improvement and for change? And for this, we'll have a diverse expert panel to present on these variety of issues for improving HIV testing and care processes. We'll follow that up. We'll have had a lot of ideas, a lot of different discussions, and so we're going to have an open space after this. So participant-driven breakout sessions. All participants are going to get an opportunity to suggest topics that they want to dig deeper into. And we're going to feature those during the day, and anything else that's on your mind, we can bring up during open space. We have this time 60 minutes built into the agenda for everyone to sit with their team and to make a plan for going forward. So this is where you might use your time for planning for your sustainability structures as you move forward. It also might be a plan for reflecting on your aims. What do you have yet to accomplish? What have you already accomplished? What do you hope to accomplish as you move forward? And then finally, we are talking with a special guest keynote speaker who will hopefully send us off with inspiration and motivation as we move through this transition. And this should be really exciting. To get ready for Learning Session 4, do make sure you vote, and you can go directly to the website, and there's a link there. I think Anna is also going to add that link into the chat box on your right. Vote for a great change. So as I mentioned, do dig up that message. I'm also going to resend it with a few days' notice. Anna just included the link to vote for the changes in the chat box. There's 20 changes, there's 50 words each. It's a lot to go through, but there's a lot of great stuff there. So I encourage you to look through it thoroughly and vote for the change that you want to talk more about at Learning Session 4. Of course, prepare your storyboard and make sure you print it and bring it to Learning Session 4. This is where other teams are going to get to know you, be able to talk to you, ask you how you did things, and that'll really stimulate some more learning. We're also going to have at Learning Session 4 a message board, so you can leave messages for others that are in the room if you want to bring job postings, anything really that you feel like you'd like to share at the learning session. And then, of course, lastly is to attend and participate on January 28th, and that's at the Sheraton Wall Center in Vancouver. And we will be starting at 9 a.m. the program. Breakfast and registration start at 8:30, and we'll be closing the day at 5 o'clock. So are there any questions about readiness for Learning Session 4, the agenda at this point, or for the transition?
Christina?
Go ahead.
Hi, it's Andrea. Is the registration open yet online?
Yep, the registration is open. So you can just go to stophiv.ca, the banner on the page. You can click on that and it'll bring you right to the registration page.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions about the transition or the learning session? All right, not hearing any questions from you, I have a question for all of you. How are you feeling about the transition? Do you feel ready? And what are some of the things you're thinking about?
Hi, Christina. It's Andrea from Primary Outreach Services.
Go ahead, Andrea.
Hi. I think that at this point in the transition, our internal HIV collaborative team is reflecting on all of the great work that we've done and the trajectory that we've seen in our improvements, our health systems, our data collection systems, reaching towards our aim statements, but we are still a ways from actually achieving those goals. Mm-hmm. And I think what we've been doing over the past couple of months is just really digging into what those barriers are and identifying those challenges and barriers, whether that's staff-based barriers or partner barriers or client barriers, just really understanding what might be getting in the way for us to be able to achieve those goals and improve our systems and the way that we deliver care. So as we're moving from these initial phases into the sustainability, we're really going to focus on understanding those things a little bit more. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Andrea. That sounds really great. So it sounds to me like you've really been thinking through this, but also that you've already got the sustainability mindset, so this is something that's ongoing. It's great that you're thinking about celebrating all that you've accomplished, because I know there's been a lot of it. And with a year's or more work, it's always nice to kind of take stock of how far you've come, because one thing I notice with teams is they're not always aware of really the enormous body of work that they have accomplished. So that's great that you're taking that time to do that. And as you're moving forward, you've obviously developed a greater understanding of some of the barriers and some of the new directions you need to take. So you're already thinking about that improvement priority renewal. So that sounds really great, Andrea.
Thank you.
Anyone else? What are you thinking about as you're transitioning?
Hi, Christina. It's David here.
Hey, David.
I agree with you about what you said about the teams taking stock. I just reflect on when we did our site visits, and I think when, as an external hearing from the teams, all the work that they did, I think just at that time there was a real appreciation and acknowledgement of how much work, and I think when you do pause and take stock of where you were and how you got to where you are now, a very helpful exercise, and I think we were really struck by the amount of work. I think teams maybe didn't really appreciate how much they had put in and how far they had come until they actually stopped and were explaining it to us. So I think that's a nice exercise to consider at a transition period. I wonder, just for teams, about, I know the frequency of the learning sessions and the calls and the support has probably created that sense of being connected to the larger network. So I would just wonder for some of the teams with more spaced out activities, how do they stay connected into other teams? How would they, if they wanted to know if another team had already dealt with one of the obstacles they were facing or learn about other teams' improvement successes, how do they stay connected to the other teams with learning sessions not as frequent and calls not as frequently? What are the ways that they can do that?
So the question you're putting to the teams is, how will you stay connected to other teams with less frequent learning sessions and activities?
That's correct.
So what do you guys think?
Hi, it's Andrea again.
Go ahead, Andrea.
Hi. Actually, I was maybe hoping for some clarification around that, because that's something that I was actually wondering about. And I understand that there's a listserv. Is that right?
That's correct.
So will that still be kept up?
It will,
into
yeah.
the sustainability phase?
Yep.
So we can communicate with the entire network that way still? Is there any other, was there another platform made perhaps on the website?
Yeah, why don't I go over just once more some of the supports that'll be in place.
That'd be great.
So some of the things that you'll see in what we call the HIV Quality Improvement Network are a listserv, Andrea, as you mentioned. So this is essentially an email address that will put your message into about 200 plus improvers across the province. So if you're thinking about, you know, I have this new AMR, I'm not really sure how to use it. Is there anyone out there that has used this EMR? Do you have any tips for how I can get started? So those are the kind of questions that you might want to pose that network. If you're looking for documents, updates, a discussion forum, I think we might be instituting as we go forward, but that's not confirmed. Then you would come to the website. So the website will continue to be there under stophivaids.ca, and that's where you can find all of the documents from the past 3-4 years of this work that will be available to you. We are also very likely to be having another face-to-face learning session, but it will be not as frequent, so maybe in 8 months or so. And then we'll likely be implementing a call schedule where we can continue to convene in calls like this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So back to David's question about how do you think you'll be able to connect, and do those sort of supports, do they meet your needs? Is there anything that you think is missing?
It's Dana here from ABI and Nanaimo.
Hey, Dana.
Hi. The stop teams on the island are meeting sort of in regards to the region, like North Island, Central Island, probably South Island too. And we're trying to meet together a little bit more too. So North and Central Island, which would be Port Alberni, Nanaimo, and North Island, Campbell River and Courtenay, are trying to meet a little more as not only the stop teams, but just as what has grown out of that, which is HIV primary care or specialist care. So, you know, as far as regionally, we're trying to maintain and grow our relationships with each other. Outside of the island, we'll have to work at that, like over to the mainland, keeping connections with groups there.
That sounds great, Dana. Some of the work you're doing, I guess locally, more internally with the health authority to keep connected for coordination, for communication. So that's great work.
And that really is, you know, because there has been a little bit of some stop funding that's come to Island Health that has been awarded to not only Island Health groups, but also, you know, AIDS Vancouver Island and the Needle Exchange and other non-government organizations. You know, we're more included in the, you know, it's more of a collaborative at that level too. Yeah.
So is there a regular meeting schedule that Island Health is going to follow, or is that under development?
I'm not sure if it's if there's a schedule, but we're pretty regular. There's also another group that meets, which is the blood-borne disease group. So it includes almost all the same folks, but we've included hepatitis C in our conversations. But a lot of the modeling is going to come from all our learning with the Stop HIV, because it's so brilliant and easily transferable to Hep C, which we all realize we should hurry up and do. Include, I mean, right? Yeah.
Thanks, Dana. That sounds excellent.
Hi, this is Janice in Port Alberni.
Hey, Janice.
I'm wondering if it might be, I realize you've already got your schedule all made for the learning day, but if it might be possible to just kind of demo some of the stuff that's on the website for people who aren't really fully engaging in the website and what's available there, just kind of entice people to go there more.
Okay, yeah. Good idea. Thanks, Janice. Any other questions? I can also leave you with time to start working on your storyboards too. That was kind of part of the intended purpose of this call. But I want to make sure that you have all your questions answered before we move to that. I have one last question for people, and that is, in the future, with webinars or phone calls like these, is there anything that we can do differently that would make this of greater value to you?
Hi, Christina. It's Andrea from Primary Outreach Services.
Hey, Andrea, go ahead.
I thought one thing that might help, just based on our experience, is when the coaching calls come out, you guys discuss what the content is going to be. I thought it would be helpful to also know kind of what phase along the continuum of HIV care that the content is focusing on.
Okay. Great, thank you. That's a good suggestion. Any other suggestions?
Hi, Christina. It's David again. I just know that some of the teams have shifted over time since the launch, so I'm wondering if there's a process just for teams and to encourage teams to just think about who's on the team again and make sure that they're connected into the collaborative. Mm-hmm. So I've had the experience where I've heard someone was new on the team and they're like, oh, I didn't know there was a coaching call. I'm not getting the request or the information to join that. I think just because within their team they said, oh, I'll take over and I'll do some of that work. But then they weren't electronically connected to the larger network.
Right. So what do you think would be helpful?
Is there something like after learning, we could talk about it at learning session 4, and then is there something afterwards where the teams could all check in with their updated, like we could have people just update their contact list?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great idea, David, and maybe something to think about during the planning time too when you're thinking about sustainability and renewal, making sure that everyone on the team is connected to all the communications. All right, if there's...
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Henry.
Go ahead, Henry.
Just had a question. I'm just I've recently just started and looking at the Stop HIV Seek and Treat site. And is there a spot where a person can look at previous learning stuff? Like we're on level number 4 right now, and is there a spot where we can, a person's just beginning, go back and do what you guys have already done and catch up?
So let me think through that. Absolutely all of the resources from the past 4 or 5 years specific to the collaborative are there. How well they're organized, it might be a different question in terms of if you're thinking about just getting started. I think something that might be helpful is something like an onboarding package or an orientation to some of the resources. And we had done that in the past, but I think it's a really great idea for moving forward. Do you think that would be helpful, Henry, to have something like an orientation package or an onboarding package?
I think so, because especially when it comes to, at least if I can read on the learning stages and be kind of caught up in what you guys have done.
Yep.
Since learning stage number 1 till today, and like for anyone who's just beginning and trying to think of questions is kind of a little bit difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Henry. All right, so not hearing any more questions, what I think I'd like to do is leave you the last 20 minutes of this call to sit with your teams or to start thinking about your storyboards for Learning Session 4. As I mentioned, Learning Session 4 is January 28th. Registration is open. Don't forget to vote. That material came out yesterday in a message from the collaborative, and it will come out this week again. So thanks everyone very much. I really appreciate some of the feedback that we received for the collaborative today, and hope you feel nice and ready for the learning session and for the transition, and more messages to come. Have a great day.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.